I want to talk about Oriol Romeu and the CDM position, because there has been a lot of talks about how Xavi Hernandez doesn't feel so confident about having Oriol Romeu in the CDM position. We need better alternatives. Barcelona do need to strengthen that position, especially because with Frankie being injured, with Sergio Busquets being gone, it does seem like Barcelona do have a weak link, and that is the CDM position. And so the problem of that position, it is showing, and the reason why it's being brought to light is because of Frankie de Jong's absence from the squad, and the fact that one player kind of destroys the momentum in the midfield, that is a huge concern. And so Mundo Deportivo did state this: the club wants another pivot, and Deco has been looking at players in case they had to act in January. However, given the financial fair play situation, the club is not considering the arrival of a midfielder in January. The club is working on monitoring players to strengthen the position, but now it is believed that it will be more for the summer. If a great opportunity arises in January, the club will look into it, but today it looks complicated, and the priority is to register Vitor Roque and nothing more. So it does seem like Barcelona are going to be financially restricted during January, and so we're gonna have to wait to see Barcelona make a huge investment for a certain player. I can't think of some certain like young players that we could bring in for very cheap, like for example Moscardo from Corinthians for 30 million euros. I don't know if that's considered as a lot in the perspective of Barcelona. Maybe it is, but it is one of the cheapest options. Maybe we could look at another option that I can think of is Fabrizio Diaz, who is currently at Saudi Arabia, an operation that still pisses me off till this very day, by the way, because Barcelona did not pull the trigger during the summer transfer window to sign the player. Fabrizio Diaz didn't look like he was going anywhere. Brighton were once interested in the player, but eventually the buyers were minimizing, and that's why he went to Saudi Arabia. Barcelona could have gotten this player for around 8 to 12 million euros. Another cheap option. But if Barcelona are truly financially restricted and they can invest no more than 12 million euros, then they should just look inside the club, and that is Marc Casado, a current captain for Barcelona Athletic. That could be another option to reinforce the CDM position. And so I think that if we really want to see Barcelona make a true impact in that position, like I'm talking about bringing in a world-class player, yes, it's true, we're gonna have to wait until the summer, because if we want to make a big impact, we're gonna have to go for the big names, and those big names could be Kimmich, it could be Rodri, it could be Zubimendi, it could be whoever. It's gonna have to be a big name. I think the fact that this problem has widened for Barcelona, and it is a very serious problem, of course Barcelona are gonna be going into that summer and saying, okay, we're willing to invest heavily for a world-class central defensive midfielder, a world-class one. We're gonna have to go all in. I don't think that Barcelona will heavily invest on a world-class number 9 or a world-class right back or a world-class left back. It will be in that central defensive midfield role. So going back to the conversation, right, it is a huge concern, I'm not going to lie, and I think that, okay, so two things did happen in the past month that led towards this big concern. Point number one is Frankie de Jong's absence, because he is going to be out for the next 4 to 5 to 6 weeks, and most importantly, Oriol Romeu has shown that he cannot play by himself in the 3-man midfield. He cannot be a lone pivot. He loses the ball a lot, and I'm going to be showing you guys clips so you guys can see exactly just how Oriol Romeu did play up against Porto. He made a lot of misplaced passes. Every time he received the ball, he either made it too late or he did it too early, or sometimes he was hesitant on whether he should pass it to that player or not, and Porto pressed Oriol Romeu very well. And like when we have a lone pivot, you must be really good at being press resistant. You must not feel like you're being pressed and always act like you're doing well with the ball, right? That is one of the things that Sergio Busquets was so good at when he was at Barcelona. Every time he was being pressed, he always made the right pass. He never made a misplaced pass. Like, yes, there were moments when he was making a pass and it came out slow, but no player is perfect. But overall, he showed that he was very press resistant. Frankie de Jong shows that he's press resistant when he has the ball and he's in that position of Oriol Romeu in those areas, right? He barely loses the ball. Like out of like the 99 attempts that he makes those dribbles from deep areas, he doesn't miss not one, because he's able to dribble away from that situation, or he's able to like pass the ball to the correct player regardless of how many players are on top of him. But with Oriol Romeu, it just doesn't seem like he's capable to live in environments like that. And to Xavi Hernandez, this is a huge concern, and for us Barcelona fans, this is a huge concern, because if we continue to rely on Oriol Romeu to play in that lone pivot position for the next 2 or 3 games, that's really not good. Now, lucky for us, we do have a 2-week break, right? We are going to be going into international break, but still, we have a lot of important games ahead. Frankie de Jong will not be back until at the very least El Clásico, and like what if Frankie de Jong does get injured again? Then what? There was also like other reports stating that Oriol Romeu was not precise enough against Porto and lost 11 balls until Xavi Hernandez switched things up and placed Gundogan right next to him. Oriol Romeu has a very hard time and looked uncomfortable with a lack of confidence. And so, like, yes, I know that there is an answer for this. You place a player right next to Oriol Romeu so he can play much more comfortably. But the thing is that I know that many of you guys also want to see a lot of attackers in the squad in order for us to score more goals, right? Because the fact that we were able to score so many goals in the past 6 to 7 games is because we have more attackers on the starting 11. We don't necessarily already have 4 to 5 midfielders in the starting 11. And placing another midfielder next to Oriol Romeu is placing more midfielders than you should be. Because the reason why Xavi Hernandez places a player right next to Oriol Romeu is because he wants more control. Oriol Romeu by himself cannot give the total control. And Xavi has said multiple times, if his team loses the ball and they don't have the ball, he loses his mind. He wants total control. He wants possession. And so of course he's going to be making those type of switches and say, okay, I'm going to be putting Gundogan right next to Oriol Romeu. We're going to be having more midfielders. That is what we're going to do. And then we're also going to be having Fermin Lopez and Xavi up top as interiors. And then there you go. You have a total of 4 midfielders. But a lot of people don't really even like to move forward with that type of idea. And I understand that because yes, we do have total control. Yes, we have a lot of the possession, but we kind of minimize our attack, which is never good. So there is one solution, right? There has been a lot of talks going on within the club that has stated the following, and this is coming from Sport. While Barcelona continue to search for another defensive midfielder, Andreas Christensen is a real option to play in that position. It has been discussed in the meetings and Deco likes this idea, meaning that Barcelona, Deco, Xavi Hernandez do like the idea of playing Christensen as a lone pivot and play right next to Gundogan and Xavi in order for Xavi and Gundogan to play in high positions, create outside the box, and then you have the 3 total attackers up front. And so that basically solves all problems. And so if they move with that idea, then when they go into the attack and move to a formation of 2-3-5, which is the clear formation that Xavi Hernandez wants to do when they are on the attack, right? When they are on the attack, only they use that formation. I want to make that very clear. They have Jules Koundé, Araujo as a center back pairing at the back, and then our 3-man midfield will be Christensen in the middle with Cancelo getting tucked in, and then Xavi right next to Christensen on his left, with our front 5 being Alejandro Balde, Joao Felix, Ferran Torres, Gundogan, and Lamine Yamal. And that will make much more sense. You have Gundogan in higher positions. You don't necessarily have to put him in the CDM role because Christensen is able to act as a lone pivot when needed, when they're playing with the ball from the back. And trust me, yes, Christensen has played as a CDM before, and also he played in a double pivot and also as a lone pivot with Chelsea and also with Denmark. So he has a lot of experience. Now, if this does not happen, if for whatever reason Xavi says, okay, no, I don't want to do this because I think that Christensen should be a backup to either Koundé or Araujo because I need my defenders. So we could use a 2-3-5, and I'm talking about for the game against Granada, right? We use a 2-3-5 formation with Koundé and Araujo at the back, Cancelo, Gundogan, and Xavi as our 3-man midfield, and then up top, which is the 5-man attacking line, being Alejandro Balde, Joao Felix, Ferran Torres, Fermin Lopez, and Lamine Yamal. It's a very much workable starting 11. Again, it's the most sensible one. It's not the strongest one, mainly because we have a lot of injuries right now, but I think that we can get through with an 11 like this against Granada, who is one of the worst teams in La Liga right now. And you know, I don't even think that if you move Christensen into the CDM role, it's not going to be the end of the world. Like, I understand that many might be concerned because you're going to be seeing 3 total starting center backs in the starting 11, and one of them might need rest because you don't want to have one of them injured and playing all the time. And so I think that Christensen can play in that position, and then you just bring in Mikhail Faye into the first team to reinforce the defensive line options, and you can just do it for the game against Granada, right? It could be a short-term solution, and maybe even a long-term solution if it does need to be, or until Frankie de Jong does come back. And so let me know what you guys think in the comment sections down below. That is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.